A midlife crisis is more than just a cultural stereotype. It's a real psychological struggle that can surface between the ages of 40 and 60. Often triggered by aging, loss, or unmet expectations, it can actually lead individuals to question their identity, make impulsive choices, or abruptly abandon long term commitments. While not officially classified yet as a mental illness, the emotional and relational fallout is very real, especially for the spouses and families left behind. This podcast gives voice to those living through the aftermath, exposing the hidden pain, and seeking accountability, healing, and understanding. Thank you for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. Hey, Bomb Squad. Thanks for joining me today on MLC Bomb Drop and Beyond. This is Trina, and today we are talking about the silent population. That is, many of us, millions and millions walking around the world, WIVORCED. Stay tuned. Today, we're going to talk about being WIVORCED. There is a word missing from our language. And until recently, I didn't even realize how badly we needed it. Many of us left behind spouses that have been abandoned and discarded. I think many of us realized there wasn't a word that described our situation, and boy, do we need it. And that word is WIVORCED. WIVORCED. Just like divorced, but it starts with a W for widowed. Part widowed, part divorced, entirely disorienting. Because sometimes the person you built a life with doesn't die. They disappear. They walk out. They rewrite your story. They become someone you no longer recognize. And yet, the world still calls you divorced. But divorce doesn't even begin to describe what this feels like. When a spouse dies, society understands. People bring food. They send cards. There is acknowledgement that something catastrophic has occurred. But when a spouse abandons the marriage, the silence is deafening. Psychologists have a term for this kind of experience: ambiguous grief, which we've talked about before. A loss without closure. The body is still here, but the relationship is gone. The person is alive, but the life you built together is not. And the brain struggles with this because the brain wants categories: gone or not gone, safe or not safe, love or rejection. Ambiguous grief lives in none of those boxes, which is why it is one of the most psychologically destabilizing forms of grief that a human can experience. You aren't imagining the disorientation. Your nervous system is trying to comprehend the incomprehensible. Here's something I want to say very clearly, you guys. Divorce implies participation, but many of us were not participants. We were casualties. I know myself, I was forced into a divorce I never saw coming. There was no collaborative conversation, no gentle unwinding, no shared decision about the future. One day I was married, and the next, boom, I was in a legal process that began draining my savings, my stability, and the life I thought we were building. People say divorce is expensive, but what they don't say is this: it is exponentially more devastating when only one person wanted that divorce. I didn't just lose a marriage. I financed its destruction. Forced divorce creates a very specific psychological injury because trauma hits harder when you had no time to prepare. No emotional runway, no financial strategy, no protective planning. It's just shock, and man, it is expensive. I want to give you guys a real-life example of what financial abandonment can look like. At the time my 27-year marriage detonated, We had a 2.8% mortgage. Stability, protection, a financial future that most people would pray for today. You know, in our divorce settlement, I asked for just 3 extra weeks to do the mortgage assumption. Just 3 extra weeks, maybe even less. Because, newsflash, I didn't realize that it takes easily 3, 4, 5, 6 months to do a mortgage assumption. And we were running out of time. I asked for 3 weeks to preserve the life that we had built. My husband of 27 years said no. That single decision forced me into a refinance at more than double the interest rate. Abandonment doesn't just break your heart. Sometimes it rewrites your financial trajectory for decades. And that financial trajectory that I was put into affected me and our children. After 27 years of saving and building a retirement future, it's just crazy. And that is what being divorced will do to you. It took us years to build that stability and just seconds for someone else to decide it didn't matter. And I know many of you listening have your own version of that very moment. Maybe it was the house. Maybe it was the retirement account, the college fund, the business that you built together. The numbers may be different, but the shock and betrayal feels the same. Financial abuse isn't always loud. Sometimes it sounds like just a signature on a document. And there's another layer no one prepares you for. Because when a spouse dies, there are systems in place. There's life insurance, survivor benefits, Social Security, community support. But when a spouse chooses to leave in midlife crisis, those systems vanish. There's no abandonment insurance. But newsflash, if you're an insurance company, maybe you should make that available. Abandonment insurance for somebody going through midlife crisis. But seriously, there is no relational disaster fund. There's no check arriving to stabilize the life that just imploded. Instead, many divorced spouses become the financial first responder to their family overnight. Because those vanishing spouses leave, they disappear, they stop supporting their children emotionally and financially. It's crazy. You know, the marriage is the primary loss, but the secondary losses cascade. Financial security, parenting partnership, retirement plans, emotional backup, shared responsibility, and future dreams. No one prepares you for the administrative side of this heartbreak. And if this happened to you, it was not because you were naive. It was because you were committed. And hear me when I say this, commitment is not a character flaw. I'm proud of you guys for having such strong commitment. And I see you in my comments and in my emails and letters and phone calls. I know I have met the most committed, loyal, truly amazing people through this show because of what you've gone through. And I see your commitment and your strength, and it's just heartwarming. And the person who blindsides you often has months, sometimes years, of psychological and financial head start. And I think of that as a total relational ambush. One partner is sitting there rewriting the future while the other is still protecting the marriage. They have no idea. You were hit. You are not weak. If you felt disoriented, shattered, unable to find your footing, that wasn't weakness. You were hit. And I want you guys to know that even if someone makes decisions that do alter your financial path, just like it happened to me, that doesn't mean it gets to determine your ultimate destination. Your interest rate may have changed, but your worth did not. And the truth about being divorced, death ends a life. Abandonment erases one. But here's what I want every divorced listener to hear today. You are not left because you are unlovable. You are left because someone else completely unraveled. Look at you. You are still standing. You are still providing. You're protecting your children, and you are rebuilding. This is not the profile of someone who was destroyed. That is the profile of someone who is formidable. And maybe one day, maybe divorced will be a recognized word. Maybe we'll see that in the dictionary. Maybe we'll see it on forms when people have to write, put a little checkbox. Single, divorced, married, divorced, because it's different. It's completely different than being divorced. But until then, Bomb Squad, know this. Just because society doesn't have language for our type of grief, it doesn't make it any less real. You didn't imagine your marriage. You didn't fabricate that love. And you certainly did not deserve the disappearance and the abandonment. And if this is your story, you are not alone. There's an entire community of us walking this road right beside you. We are the Bomb Squad. Widows are protected. The divorced are expected to adapt. And I know many of us out there were not divorced by incompatibility or irreconcilable differences. We were divorced by disappearance. We were divorced by abandonment. Us and our children. Therapists are beginning to acknowledge that sudden marital abandonment can mirror the trauma profile of other life ambushes because the brain experiences both loss and betrayal simultaneously. And if you experience this, just know what happened to you was not a normal ending. It was a psychological rupture. You did not overreact. You did not imagine the devastation. And you certainly were not weak for struggling to find your footing after the blast. Your life didn't change direction. It detonated. But here's what you need to understand. The fact that you are listening to this show tells me everything I need to know about you. Because people who are truly fragile, they don't get up and rebuild their lives. They don't listen to podcasts like this to give them strength and hope. And yet, here you are, getting up every day, ready to rebuild your life, bigger and better. And yeah, maybe you are still healing. Maybe you are still stabilizing. Maybe you're replacing the Band-Aids every day and rewrapping gauze on yourself. Maybe you're still trying to understand how someone you trusted could become someone you no longer recognize. And you may feel like that for many, many years because it is completely irrational. That confusion that you have, that is not dysfunction. It is your brain trying to reconcile two completely different realities. I know you're going through it. I know I'm going through it. I know many children out there are going through it. But hear this, you guys. You are not defined by the moment your life fell apart. You are defined by the courage it took to rebuild it after your divorce. And this is what it means to be divorced. You are not broken, you are not discarded, and you're not powerless. You are forced to rise without the person you thought would always be beside you. And if no one has told you this, let me be the only one to say it. I see your strength. I respect your survival. And you are not walking this road alone. We are all on this road together. There is an entire community of people learning how to breathe again after emotional suffocation, learning how to trust themselves again after betrayal, learning how to build a future again, even when it looks nothing like the one that you had originally planned. You may be divorced, but you are not erased. You are not finished, and your story is far from over. And here on MLC Bomb Drop, we see you and we see each other. Thanks for joining us today on MLC Bomb Drop and beyond. And I look forward to seeing you in our next episode where we speak with Dr. Lee Baucom, a 30-year veteran of marriage therapy, relationship counseling, and a thrivologist. So join us in our next episode when we meet Dr. Lee. All right, guys, stay strong, stay awesome, and I'll see you soon. Hey guys, this is Trina, and I want to take a moment to speak directly to anyone who didn't choose the collapse but is living with the aftermath. When a spouse enters midlife crisis, the damage doesn't unfold slowly, it happens like an explosion. One day you're living a shared life. The next, the person you trusted has emotionally disappeared, rewriting history, minimizing the damage, and running from the very family they helped build. Friends are confused. The story gets simplified. And the spouse left behind is often expected to handle it quietly, gracefully, all while absorbing the fallout all alone. After the bomb drop, a survival guide for the left behind spouse was written for you. This book doesn't offer platitudes or false hope. It names what others avoid. Why chasing answers only deepens the wound, and how to stabilize your life after emotional abandonment, emotionally, legally, and within your family. In this book, we talk about why these departures feel so sudden and destabilizing, because they are. Why the spouse who stays is often blamed, erased, or silenced. Why saving yourself is not abandonment, and how to grieve someone who is still alive while finding your footing again. This book does not promise reconciliation. It offers you guys something more necessary at this time, and that is stability, dignity, and a way forward when someone else has chosen to run. After the bomb drop, a survival guide for the left behind spouse is available now on Amazon Kindle in both ebook and paperback. And if you're standing in the blast radius and wondering how to survive what you didn't cause, this book was written for you. Hey, some resources that are available for you guys are thewifeexpert.com. That's Lori McDermott over there at thewifeexpert.com. She also has a new app out. There's tons of videos that can give you all kinds of information on no matter where you are on your MLC journey or trying to reconcile with your spouse. So check out thewifeexpert.com. And if you're not sure if your spouse or yourself is in maybe approaching or in a midlife crisis, be sure to check out Kenda Root's quiz at midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. Again, that's a midlifecrisismarriageadvocate.com. That's a quick little 2-minute quiz. It's free. So check that out as well. We have a ton of resources out there for you guys. So check them out. Thanks. Hey, if you have a story you'd like to share with our listeners, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email mlcbombdrop@gmail.com. Again, that's mlcbombdrop@gmail.com. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon. The stories and events discussed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered legal, medical, or professional advice. Any names, locations, or identifying details have been changed to protect privacy. Any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, or real events are purely coincidental. The information presented on this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with a qualified expert regarding any decisions related to your specific situation. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the podcast creators.